Marvel's Darkest Heroes, Kamen Rider Transformations in American Comics. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 61. Tsuyoshi Demoto used a powerful stick and slammed into the wall not far away. The moment his stick touched the wall, a figure jumped off the wall, and one tumbled to the other side. He wore black body armor and had a huge skull printed on his chest. Exactly the street hero Punisher. Watching the other party smash the wall with a stick, there was no mercy. Frank the Punisher's face sank. Not bad. So try this trick? Tsuyoshi Demoto's iron rod swept across again. Frank felt his scalp tingle and dodged one after another. Why follow me? Demoto Gangzo looked at the embarrassed Frank and looked at him with interest, obviously so weak, but dare to spy on my actions all the time. It's good that you guys hunt down these monsters. However, your reckless destruction has caused a large number of casualties among ordinary people, which should not be. Frank said, although he sometimes hurts the innocent in order to kill the wicked, he is not as out of the ordinary as the other party. Their gang of people made a move, full of disregard for the lives of ordinary people. We do things, when are you qualified to point fingers? Demoto Gangzo smiled disdainfully. There will never be a shortage of ordinary people in this world, they die, it's just their own bad luck. Hearing his words, Frank's face turned gloomy. Originally, I thought that you could maintain order in Hell's Kitchen, but I didn't expect that there was actually no difference between you and those monsters. He spat on the ground with disdain. Bold. You dare to compare that kind of experimental subject with us? Demoto Gangzo was very angry at his words, and his expression became fierce. Then I will tell you, little mouse, weak people are not qualified to preach to the strong. His long stick mercilessly smashed into Frank's head. This time, he obviously moved the real thing. Frank only felt that he was locked by an air machine, and a powerful aura rushed towards him, affecting his actions. After dodging for less than 10 seconds, he was forced to a dead corner, and the iron rod of Demoto Gangzo had already reached his head. Frank's pupils vibrate, looking at the iron rod that is about to break himself. At this time, a gunshot came from the other end of the alley. The metal doping that Demoto Tsuyoshi had turned into was directly knocked out. Taking this opportunity, Frank ran back tens of meters. When he walked in, he saw the look of the man who saved him. Like a terrifying skeleton soldier, wearing a gray gentleman's hat and holding a Merlin gun in his hand. Also an adulterant. Frank was immediately wary. Although the other party saved himself, he is not sure whether the other party is friend or foe. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that you, a traitor, actually arrived in New York. The metal-doped body also came over at this time, looking at the figure in front of him with excitement. Drag your blessing, I am back from hell. Narumi Shokichi's voice came from the doped body. It's okay, I'll send you in again today. The metal-doped body held a long stick and immediately attacked. The skull-doping body was not afraid, and the skull Merlin gun in his hand kept shooting. The metal-doped body is thick with its own skin and flesh, and rushes directly to the bullet. Yes, but Narumi Shokichi changed his shooting mode in an instant and turned it into a heavy hit. The bullet that hits heavily is about as powerful as the energy ball of the forbidden doped. One shot directly broke the defense of the metal-doped. Damn, it's you. Narumi Shokichi's gun is charged and is preparing to solve the metal-doped. But the next second, the body retreated. A powerful shell hit where he had just been. Not far away, several figures came quickly. Let's go. Narumi Shokichi immediately picked up Frank and walked around the street. After a while, the two came to a safe place. Who are you? Why did they call you a traitor? And why are you trying to save me again? Frank steadied himself and looked at Shokichi Narumi. Nothing. Whoever they want to kill, I will save, that's all. Narumi Shokichi said casually. I recognize you too, called the Punisher, right? Give you a piece of advice, their affairs, you should stop tracking. The power of doping is not something you can deal with. I can kill them while they become human. Frank said directly. It didn't work. They, originally, are dead people. Narumi Shokichi shook his head and turned away. What do you mean it's a dead person in itself? Frank looked at Narumi Shokichi's back and frowned. You successfully influenced Frank Castle the Punisher and get 100 special impact factors. On the other side, a tall building. Several men in suits were looking at the screen in front of them. On the screen, there are the figures of Shokichi Narumi, the Punisher, and Never. Sure enough, my guess is correct. Narumi Shokichi was a member of Never before. Coulson listened to the conversation in the picture and nodded slightly smugly. During the conversation, several of Never's people exposed the identity of Shokichi Narumi. But what does hell and rebirth mean? Coulson frowned slightly. Could it be that they are all dead and reborn? A bold idea appeared in his head. Episode 62. Is it possible that the dead are reborn? Coulson was taken aback by his thoughts. He analyzed the conversations of the Never Squad and others to arrive at this shocking result. However, everything is still just his speculations and inferences, and what the facts are is not clear. But there are absolutely unknown secrets in this group of museum people. When they fight, they will know the truth. Coulson looked at the Never Everyone who had returned to the hotel. They are plotting to arrest Narumi Shokichi, and Narumi Shokichi is again Tony Stark's friend. New York is Tony Stark's turf, and he will not sit idly by. At that time, a big war is inevitable, and it will definitely be a lose-lose situation. And in the end, it's time for S.H.I.E.L.D. to make a move, and everything is collected. On Coulson's face, the smile can no longer be hidden. Stark Industrial Building ground floor garden. A grand cocktail party is taking place. This was held by Stark in order to announce his return. The reception invited a large number of celebrities. Of course, supermodels with hot bodies of all kinds are also essential. Tony, I'm so happy that you're back safe. Looking at the mustachioed man with two hands in front of him, Yen Tianxin smiled and stretched out his wine glass. Ah. Valiant Locust Man, thank you for your concern. Tony let go of a supermodel and touched Yen Tianxin with his wine glass. Your Kamen Rider armor is really cool. Tony gave Yen Tianxin a wink. Yen Tian's heart was greasy, but he endured the discomfort. How, do you want to give you a set to play? That's not necessary. But I've ordered 10 sets for my bodyguards, just to give you a punch. Tony drank the wine from his glass. Yen, I heard that you took advantage of my disappearance to buy a large number of shares of Stark Industries? After drinking, Tony raised an eyebrow. Of course. Such a good advantage, of course I will not miss it. I don't believe you kid died in the Middle East. Yen Tianxin patted him on the shoulder and chatted casually with him. The little secretary Izzy blocked him, angrily blocking many hot beauties who wanted to get close to him. It seems that I know you best. Tony patted Yen Tianxin's back. However, you may have to lose money. Tony saw a large number of weapons scribbled with Stark Industries in the weapons depots of terrorists in the Middle East, in the villages and towns where they slaughtered civilians. He understood his sin and the preciousness of life. Even if Dr. Ethan is not dead now, he will close his weapons manufacturing department as originally planned in the plot. He could expect that his company's stock price would plummet. That's fine, it's just a few billion, little money. Yen Tian said nonchalantly, looking at Ija, who was like an old hen to prevent those hot oldine from approaching, and showed a happy smile. Tony watched his expression and his eyelids jumped. Dude, you don't really want to live with your robot secretary for the rest of your life, do you? My god, you see these beachy blocked by her, which is not better than her. Tony's eyes glanced over Izzy, and this cute type wasn't his thing. You don't understand. Yen Tianxin raised his head in disdain. These supermodel stars in front of him are a group of vulgar fans in his eyes. What he likes is always beyond the world, with something unattainable by ordinary people, such as Izzy, such as forbidden doped bodies, such as Tiger Undead. Conquering these is challenging. Is fresh. However, a layman like Tony will not understand. Yen Tianxin felt lonely on XP. The banquet was in full swing, the DJ played a vigorous song on the stage, and people ate and drank to their heart's content. At this moment, Tony, who was originally immersed in it, picked up his mobile phone, and after taking a look, his face changed instantly. Sorry, several, I have to go out, you guys play first. Tony grabbed the DJ's microphone. After saying a word to everyone, he quickly left here. Jarvis. Get Mark II ready. Tony said to Jarvis as he hurried toward his office. In the past few days since he returned, he has designed a new set of war armor. Although it is still based on the Mark I, it is due to differences in materials, tools, and weapons, plus the effects of Kamen Rider armor. The performance of the Mark II is 100 times stronger than the Mark I. Soon, he put on the Mark II armor, spewed flames from the soles of his feet and palms, and disappeared into the top floor of Stark Industries in the blink of an eye. Over here. According to Jarvis's positioning, Tony rushed towards his destination. This is a remote street in Hell's Kitchen. At this time, screams and wails continued to come from the streets. Crowds ran desperately through the streets. Ordinary people, gangsters, and even an adulterant. It's almost all head-hugging rats. Look closely. Not far away, several figures are fighting fiercely. Their destructive power is amazing, and in a single move, the surrounding buildings and trees are destroyed. It doesn't matter if there are ordinary people around, energy bombs and bullets fly around, turning the surroundings into really hell. Damn it. Tony was a little angry for a moment. Episode 63. On the field in front of you, a woman is holding her hands to her chest, stopping to watch. And in the center of the battlefield, there are 5 figures fighting. It is said that it is a fight, but in fact, it is 4 beating 1. 4 members of the Never Squad are beating Shokichi Narumi, who is transformed into a skull-doped. The tentacles of the Luna-doped body enveloped them like a large net, restricting the escape route of the skull-doped. The fanatical doping and metal doping are entangled with the skull-doping head-on, while the trigger doping is waiting on one side, firing black guns from time to time, making Narumi Shokichi always distracted. 4 people, clear division of labor, perfect cooperation. Under their combined attack, the skull-doped body transformed by Narumi Shokichi has long had no possibility of resistance, and is being beaten by 4 people at will like a sandbag. Haha, I haven't been so happy for a long time. It's still good for this traitor, you can't fight to death, you can fight to the fullest. It's impossible to want to die. Betray the museum and you are doomed to life rather than death. Go back to hell in repentance, Heizokichi. No, traitors have no name, you should be called a skull. Looking at Narumi Shokichi, who was beaten so miserably, Tony couldn't help it anymore. His shoulder cannon immediately fired a missile and landed in the middle of the crowd. Boom! The violent explosion immediately blew up the 5 people, including Narumi Shokichi. Tony took this opportunity to fly quickly and save Shokichi Narumi. Damn, who are you? Dare to block the museum's affairs? Sanasaki, who was watching the battle, immediately looked over coldly. Sorry to stop the museum from doing this kind of thing, this is the second time I've done it. Tony flew to the roof of the building not far away holding the skull doped. Gently putting him down, Tony patted him on the face. Novelist, are you okay? Brace yourself. Tony shouted. Are you? It's Tony. Narumi Shokichi woke up with a weak tone. I'm okay. Ahem. Okay, look at you like this, it's not like it's okay. Tony shook his head. Don't worry, I can't die. Narumi Shokichi comforted him. Yo, the traitor actually has friends. Then, even kill you. I want you to know that blocking the museum is the wrong choice. A voice came in his ear, and Tony looked down. The 4 people who had just been shot away by the missile had already slowed down and had come to the downstairs of this 6-story small building. Several people could not fly except for the Luna doped. However, they had another way to get Tony down. Frenzy, Metal, and Triggered doping 3 people stood on 3 sides of the small building, and the 3 of them shot together. Tony secretly said that it was not good, and immediately picked up Narumi Shokichi and transferred again. As soon as he got up, the small building under his feet immediately collapsed. Want to go? Tony had just flown out not far when a huge yellow tentacle came at him. Tony, who had received this blow, immediately felt that his eyes were dark. Mark II system was beaten to death. Fortunately, after a few seconds, Jax's voice entered his ears again. Sir, the armor damage has reached 15%. Jax reminded him. Tony's face was solemn, and the strength of the other party was somewhat beyond his expectations. He is difficult to deal with one. His choice, only one option to run. However, he glanced at the Luna-doped body floating in the air, dancing like an octopus. Tony suddenly felt that it was not so easy to escape. We can talk. He decided to negotiate with his mouth. My name is Tony Stark and I'm one of the top 5 richest people in the world. We can discuss, I'll give you some compensation, you let us go, how? Tony opened the mask, his face slightly ugly. When had he ever negotiated with someone so calmly? Tony Stark? I think I've heard this name. Luna-doped thought for a moment. Oh, that playboy with countless news. I heard you slept with the cover girl of Loft magazine for 12 months. I envy you so much. That's right. But the March girls clashed with my schedule, but fortunately the December cover girls were twins. Tony nodded. You are so famous and noble, if we kill you, it will definitely cause the anger of the US government, right? Luna-doped suddenly smiled. That's right. I have a very good relationship with the US military. If you kill me, the #1 army in the world will be your enemy. Tony nodded. Oops. We're threatened. But I just love the feeling of being hunted down. Luna-doped laughed maniacally, and his tentacles shot towards Tony. You. Tony couldn't imagine that the other party would make a move. In an instant, the tentacle arrived in front of him, and it was about to stab him directly. Enough. A cold, beautiful voice came. Sanasaki finally spoke up. The tentacles of the Luna-doped immediately stopped, and then retracted. Boss, you? The 4 of them looked at Sanasaki with some confusion. Episode 64. Watching Sanasaki stop herself, the 4 members of the Never were a little puzzled. Tony Stark's identity is indeed sensitive, it's better not to kill him. Enemies of museums, enough already. Sanasaki shook her head and walked over to Tony. Tony only felt the fragrant wind. Looking at the other party's beautiful face and provocative figure, the heart belonging to LSP was stirring. Tony Stark, you put this traitor down, and you can go. Sanasaki ordered. I'm sorry, he's my friend, I can't give him to you. Tony's color center suddenly converged. Friends are still more important to him. I'm not consulting with you. Sanasaki said coldly. Kaishokichi betrayed the museum, he is bound to be arrested and then executed. You can't keep him, and the United States can't keep him, but I want to keep him? Tony listened to the other party's condescending tone, and his temper suddenly rose. Immediately reflected on it. It turns out that it feels like to be talked to in this tone. Don't listen to persuasion? Do it. Sonasaki no longer compromised, and directly ordered the four to do it. The four people have long been unable to hold back, and the siege of hip-hop has come. Waiting for you. A smile twitched around Tony's mouth, holding Narumi Shokichi and jumping back. I saw 5 streams of fire descending from the heavenly firmament, smashing into Never and the others in front of me. I just talked to Sonasaki to delay time. He is not a fool. How can he be so arrogant when he is clearly going to die? While talking to Sonasaki Tsutoko, he had already ordered Jarvis to mobilize strike missiles and support. 5 missiles fall at great speed. Sonazaki snorted coldly. Taboo/taboo. She took out the forbidden memory and inserted it into the earth drive on her waist. Immediately turned into a taboo doped. Immediately, 5 more energy balls appeared in her hand and threw them into the sky. The 5 missiles had not yet landed and exploded at a distance of about 100 meters from the ground. At a distance of 100 meters, for the missiles of Stark Industries, it is also very lethal. But with the physical strength of the dopant, it is enough to withstand its impact. A huge shockwave swept through everything in the street. Countless houses rumbled and then collapsed with a bang. The Luna doping quickly jumped into the air and turned into a huge protective umbrella, protecting the rest of the people. When the impact of the missile passed, several people were basically unscathed. Okay. Tony, who had long fled into the distance, covered his forehead helplessly. His own trump card missile was actually evaded by the other party just like that. Fortunately, he still has helpers. More than a dozen unmanned Mark armor had already reached his vicinity. Stop them. Tony gave the order, and then he fled with Narumi Shokichi. Tony Stark, congratulations, you succeeded in me off. Sonasaki's cold words came from behind him. Although the missile did not hurt her, it made her look ashen. This is naturally a big taboo for people like her who care about image. She floated high in the air, gathering countless energy bombs in her hand, smashing into the Mark armor in front of her like hailstones. The sensitivity of the automatically controlled Mark armor is not high. Just a few seconds, more than a dozen Mark armor was destroyed. The wreckage fluttered down. Isn't it? Tony's eyes widened. What you used to drag time to escape and the reinforcements are suddenly gone. There's no time to think about it. The fanatical doped body got up out of nowhere and came to him. Go die. Flame bombs enveloped Tony. In the blink of an eye, Tony's Mark II was beaten to rags. Boom. The trigger doping body was hit hard, and Tony's body was knocked up and then fell heavily to the ground. As for Narumi Shokichi, he had long since turned into a human form, lying half dead on the ground, and the skull doping body was dragged dead in his hands. Sir, the degree of armor damage has reached 90%. I'm going to get stuck and stand by. Jarvis' words reached Tony's ears. Tony was silent all of a sudden. His own backhand was solved by the other party at once, and he suddenly fell into a desperate situation. So, will you die in this place like this? Chief, are we going to the rescue? Not far away. SHIELD agents are watching the battlefield here. Nick Fury personally led the team. His face was dark. It seems that things on the scene have developed somewhat beyond his expectations. Sonasaki rarely makes a move, and she doesn't make a full move. So he made a mistake in judging her strength. Unexpectedly, the other party solved Tony Stark's missiles and reinforcements in an instant, making the situation of both defeats appear one-sided. Looking at Tony, who was about to be killed, he did not dare to slack off, and immediately asked his subordinates to put on the newly purchased Kamen Rider Abaddon armor and go to support. He has little money, is corrupt, and is still stretched thin. An $8 million set of Kamen Rider Abaddon armor can only buy 20 sets. He was so distressed. Fortunately, the strength of Abaddon's armor is very good, which is also his confidence to wade into this troubled water. Episode 65. This time for Gaia memory, Nick Fry specially brought half of Kamen Rider Abaddon armor. The agents who received the order immediately picked up briefcases with Tianqin intelligent patterns printed one after another. Open the briefcase and it is the drive and program sublimation key used by Abaddon to transform into Kamen Rider. Put on the drive belt and press the switch of the program sublimation key. 10 agents began to transform. Attack. Authorize. Thinking net upgrade. Gathering locusts. Pack and attack. Sound effects and special effects flashed, and a set of yellow and green technological armor immediately formed on the 10 agents. I'll try it too. Nick Fury looked at the agents who rushed out in an instant, and he pulled under the driver's seat of the vehicle on the side with itchy hands. Another briefcase with the Tianqin smart icon was taken out by him. However, unlike the briefcase just now, this briefcase, also inlaid with gold edges, looks a lot tall. Because, this is 20 million sets of Commander Abaddon armor. Nick Fury also transformed into a look, instantly turning into the form of Commander Abaddon of Kamen Rider. Coulson, it's over to you here. I'll go to the front to help them. Coulson scratched his head, also a little surprised. He also wanted to buy a set of Commander Abaddon for self-defense, but the bureau chief clearly said that he was short of funds, so he could only buy 20 sets of ordinary. Hey, just as several doped bodies were preparing to kill Tony, SHIELD agents finally arrived. 10 men raised the shooting sublimator and shot. The 4 doped bodies were immediately beaten to a slump and retreated one after another. Who are you again? Sonasaki immediately looked at the SHIELD agents who suddenly arrived in surprise, and asked vigilantly. Sorry, ma'am, you illegally invaded the United States, causing many casualties among American residents and directly causing tens of millions of dollars in economic losses. We arrested the 5 of you for trespassing, intentional homicide, and sabotage. Nick Fury walked up to her and said coldly to her, haha, then it depends on whether you have this ability. Sonasaki smiled disdainfully, and threw the energy ball in her hand directly. The 10 SHIELD agents in front of him are all hardened and extraordinary. In terms of one thing alone, even if her hard power is not as good as Sonasaki Tsutoko, she can deal with her. And 10, it's exactly enough to crush Sonasaki and beat it. However, after the remaining 4 doped bodies joined the battlefield, the situation suddenly balanced. Nick Fury took the lead and led 2 agents to besiege Sonasaki. The remaining 4 doped bodies were all pinned down with 2 Abaddon armors. Suddenly, the situation became stalemate. The combat experience of SHIELD agents is superior to Never and others. Gradually, several dopants fell into the downwind, and after several heavy blows from Abaddon's armor, they were about to be unable to support it. The SHIELD agents are also not happy, wearing armor to fight high-intensity battles, even if they are very uncomfortable. The 2 sides will see who can't hold on first. Taking advantage of the battle between the 2 sides, Tony untied his armor, carried Narumi Shokichi with difficulty, and walked towards the distance. Leave him to me. At this time, a figure suddenly appeared beside him. A tall man wearing skull body armor appeared in front of him. Sorry. Tony looked at Frank the Punisher warily, shook his head, and took 2 steps back. Don't worry, I won't hurt him, he saved me the other day. Frank said, you and him are not doing well, you need to be healed. I have a couple of nurse friends right next to me. As Frank pointed, Tony saw several figures. A mixed-race black woman, a blind man, a high school girl. It's a little unreliable to think about it. But after glancing at his chest and at Shokichi Narumi, who was covered in injuries, Tony chose to trust Frank. He has also heard of street heroes. With Tony's permission, Frank picked up Shokichi Narumi and led him towards the alley. Let him go. Claire leads Frank. Walking through the alley, everyone saw a modified ambulance in another alley. Although the vehicle is not large, it is well equipped. Putting Narumi Shokichi on the hospital bed, Claire immediately checked it. On the other hand, Jessica was also checking the injury on her chest for Tony. She not only follows the Punisher and Daredevil to deal with criminals these days, but also follows Claire to learn some simple medical methods. How come there is a hole in your chest? Opening Tony's clothes, Jessica was stunned for a moment. I thought it was surgery, but how did it suddenly become internal medicine? I've never seen the world, little friend. I'm okay, you just take care of him. Tony closed his clothes again. The wound on his chest was a little cracked, but as long as the shrapnel did not press his heart, his life was not in danger. Jessica didn't know what to do for a while, so she could only follow Claire's side and check on Narumi Shokichi's injuries with her. Why, he doesn't have a heartbeat. However, the 2 people who checked let out an exclamation, and looked in horror at Narumi Shokichi, who was obviously still moving. Episode 66. Claire looked at the instrument in front of her, and then at Shokichi Narumi. Her mind was chaotic. Narumi Shokichi's heartbeat showed that it was a long straight line, without any ups and downs. Could it be that the instrument is broken? Jessica took the earpiece and pressed it on Shokichi Narumi's chest. Tens of seconds later, her eyes widened as well. I really can't hear a heartbeat. Leave me alone, I'm a dead man. Narumi Shokichi suddenly spoke weakly. It was the museum that brought me to life and made me work for them. You successfully influenced Frank Castle the Punisher and get 100 special impact factors. You successfully influenced the treasure girl Jessica Jones, and you get 100 special impact factors. You successfully influenced Iron Man Tony Stark and received 100 special impact factors. You succeeded. Bring the dead back to life. Hearing this news, everyone present was shocked. What kind of technology can bring the dead back to life? That's right, by studying the undead, the museum has obtained a special cellular recombinant enzyme that can resurrect the dead. However, the side effect is also great, and the resurrected person will lose his emotions and be better used by the museum. Narumi Shokichi sighed. Never the entire squad, except for the captain level. The rest of the people are resurrectors who used cell recombinase to resurrect and are loyal to the museum, which is why the museum is so relieved and bold to give them Gaia memory. So, isn't Team Never impossible to kill? Frank frowned. Conventional means can't kill them, but destroy their Gaia memory and their bodies will collapse. Narumi Shokichi explained to him. Gaia memory, how did it come about? Jessica murmured. This kind of magical thing is something beyond her understanding. She originally thought that her superpower was already very powerful, but any adulterant is not high or low with her. Utopia, the kind that can pinch her to death like an ant. I don't know, anyway, it's related to the first director of the museum. Narumi Shokichi shook his head. The first director of the museum, that must be a very distant figure. It's not too far away, about 100 years. I heard that the first director of the museum came to the United States to study at that time. It sounds like his life is full of legends. Jessica praised, and by the way, contributed another 100 special impact factors to Yen Tianxin. Claire simply helped Narumi Shokichi stitch up the wound. Tony almost slowed down. At this moment, a thunderous roar resounded on the street not far away. Someone is here again. Who is it? They looked at each other in unison, and their pupils instantly shrank. A golden noble figure is gracefully descending from the sky. Tor. Nation. Everyone's faces changed. Momja Fark. This bunch of guys is so difficult. On the streets of Hell's Kitchen, Nick Fury cursed. The battle had been going on for more than an hour, and every agent, including him, was exhausted. The other party obviously looks like he will fall in the next second, but every critical moment he can muster up his spirit and launch a counterattack again. Seeing that this battle has fallen into a protracted battle, more and more onlookers are watching. Look, it's Kamen Rider Abaddon. 8 million sets of Kamen Rider Abaddon. There are 11 sets here. No, only 10 sets. There is also a set of commander specifications. The price is 20 million. I didn't expect to see Abaddon's battle here. Shoot it quickly, send it to the pipeline, it can definitely fire. The monsters Kamen Rider Abaddon is dealing with seem to be the monsters who have been making trouble in Hell's Kitchen recently. This must have been a police shot. Come on Kamen Rider, get rid of the monsters. An hour ago, these onlookers were people who were running for their lives in the street. Seeing that the situation was under control, they immediately got free, took their mobile phones and camera equipment and began to watch the battle. Freshly baked Kamen Rider Abaddon, fight evil monsters. This scene is full of gimmicks. If they don't shoot it and put it on the internet, their hearts will be uncomfortable. Oh, such a lively big show. Without me as the protagonist, wouldn't it be a lot less fun? Just when the battle was heating up and people were boiling into the sky, a haughty voice from the air immediately attracted everyone's attention. This voice, so familiar. It's him. Hearing this voice, many people immediately reacted, and they were so frightened that they turned around and ran. The people of S.H.I.E.L.D. were also familiar with this voice, and Nick Fury's face suddenly changed, and he looked at the sky vigilantly. Sure enough, the golden proud figure slowly fell from the sky, like a god descending on earth. Beside him, there are also 3 Maleficent-looking doped bodies, which are the Jean and the trio. Why, as soon as I came, I stopped them all. Is it because I can't afford to be utopian? Utopia ends up floating above the crowd, holding scepters. The eyes swept over, and everyone's back was cold. Episode 67. Oops, Utopia is coming. Where did he come from and why is it not shown on the radar? Coulson, who was watching everything from a distance, suddenly panicked. For Utopia, Nazca and other dopedants, they all have special satellites watching. Once in line of sight, it is immediately marked by the information system and appears on their radar. The last time Utopia appeared with a mark, but this time, the radar did not work. Why? Coulson was puzzled. He looked anxiously at the scene. The S.H.I.E.L.D. agents led by Nick Fury are exhausted, and the members of Never are also very drained. Utopia just happened to appear at the most coincidental time period. At this moment, neither side could deal with him. Momja Fark, just come at this time. On the field, Nick Fury saw the 4 Utopians who had descended, and immediately drank the trembling of his agents and Never's doped bodies and contracted the front. It's the same with Never. The 2 sides directly ceased fighting and faced Utopia together. Hit, why don't you fight? Utopia watched the movements of several people in a disappointed tone. Then you can obviously feel him proudly raising the corners of his mouth. Since you don't fight, then we are not welcome. Let's do it. Jean Lien, let me see the results of the special training of the 3 of you. Yes. My lord. Jean and the 3 shouted respectfully in unison, and then slowly landed on the ground and looked at the exhausted crowd. Last time, how did you tease me? This time, I want you to come back. Jean had a revenge fire in his eyes. Since the last time they were beaten by Sonozaki and saved their lives by Utopia, the 3 of them began training under the guidance of Utopia. Utopia taught them how to integrate deeper with Gaia's memory, digging deeper into the power of Gaia's memory. This training is very useful. From the first day of training, Jean and the 3 of them felt more and more power fed back to them by the Gaia memory. In fact, Yen Tianxin opened up the power of the Gaia memory. So far, after a month of training, now they are no longer what they used to be. At the very least, Kim doesn't feel that there is any problem dealing with an exhausted taboo adulterant. You guys, don't make a move. Watching Kim and the 3 of them coming, the nervous shield agents immediately took up weapons and aimed them at the three. However, the light fluttering tone of Utopia entered their ears. Nick Fury's heart suddenly tightened, and he ordered the agents to lay down their weapons. It's good not to shoot now, and when they finish dog bite dogs, they and others can recover a lot of strength. Nick Fury thought so. Give back everything that should be returned. The fear dope that Kim transformed into laughed loudly, and the quagmire of fear immediately spread towards the Never Five. The blue dragon-shaped monster above his head also burst out and pounced viciously towards several people. Don't measure yourself. Sonasaki sneered, and the energy balls in his hand instantly gathered and threw them towards Jean. The same move, it won't work for me again. Kim shook his head contemptuously. I saw that the quagmire of fear around him was formed, and he sucked all the energy balls. As soon as the energy ball exploded, it just blew this quagmire of fear into ashes, but it couldn't hurt Jean and not the slightest. It seems that you have indeed made a lot of progress, and you have mastered the ability of the fear memory body more refined. Sonazaki's eyes sank, and she immediately screamed, but it's still far from me. Her slim body flew into the sky, like a bomber, dropping countless energy balls and carpet bombing Kim. Oh. Then please prove it. Jean didn't say anything disdainful, but his expression was still very solemn. This woman's strength is indeed terrifying. After such a long battle, there is actually such strength. He must go all out. He must take down the other party. Can't be disgraced in front of utopian adults anymore. Captain. Looking at Sonasaki, who was in a bitter battle, Luna Doping and the others immediately wanted to help, but the next second they were stopped by the bullseye that transformed into a bird doped. Want to save her? That's not going to work, your opponent, but we. The bullseye smiled triumphantly and immediately stopped the Luna Doping body flying into the sky, and the executioner who transformed into a weapon doping also blocked the trigger doping. As for the fanatical doping and metal doping, they were blocked by the blue dragon-shaped monster separated from Jin's forehead. This blue dragon-type monster is actually the embodiment of a golden memory, and its strength is not weak, just equal to the fanatical doping body and metal doping. All of a sudden, the battle on the field was once again in full swing. It's just that one side has been replaced. Never. Looking at the Never members in the bitter battle, Nick Fury was a little emotional for a while, and he was envious of the museum. This elite special squad with great power is exactly what he wants. It's a pity that the other party is not his own after all, and may even be an enemy. The Special Forces team's plan is going to speed up, thought Nick Fury. Episode 68. It lasted another half an hour or so. Under such a high-intensity battle, the members of the Never squad began to be unable to withstand even if they were beaten by iron. The first to lose was the Luna Doped. Before the bullseye becomes an adulterant, it is almost the peak of human beings. The level of fighting is very high, and he is not inferior to the 10th level Agent Frank. Although the members of Never's squad are also elites, they are still a step away from the peak of humanity. Therefore, even if the bullseye uses ordinary memory, he uses pure memory. The Luna Doping body also slowly fell into the downwind, and finally lost the ability to parry. Go die. The bullseye flew above the head of the lunar god Doped, smiling and waving its wings. A burst of energy arrows shot towards the Luna Doped. The Luna Doping body that received this blow screamed and fell to the ground, turning into a human form. The Luna Doping fell not far away. Good stuff. I took it. Utopia, who was watching the battle from above, smiled proudly, and the moon god Doping body on the ground flew directly into the sky and into his hands. Damn. The trigger doping and the weapon doping that the executioner turned into fired at each other. His shapeshifter, Ken Ashihara, was originally a member of the Special Forces, with extraordinary skills and high shooting accuracy. But he met an executioner who was similar to the bullseye. The executioner is the pinnacle of professional killers in Marvel. Not only assassinate the Night Demon, the Punisher, and even assassinate Wolverine. The trigger doping was also suppressed in his opponent's gun, and finally was hit by a heavy blow, turning into a human form and losing the ability to resist. The trigger memory is also in the hands of Utopia. Soon, time passes minute by minute. The Never squad that fell into the downwind was taken down one by one. In the end, only Sutoko Sonasaki, who fought with Kim, was left. This crazy woman. Jin Yuan's eyes sank, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Looking at Sonasaki Sutoko, who was flying into the sky and wanted to repeat her old skills, a quagmire of fear surrounded her. Carving worm trick. Sonazaki smiled disdainfully, and the energy bomb was thrown directly into the quagmire of fear. Boom! The quagmire of fear was blown away as she expected, but in the next second, a few fluctuation bombs actually floated out of it. Sonasaki, who couldn't dodge, was directly hit by the fluctuation bullet, and his body suddenly fell to the ground. Ahem. Sonasaki regained her human form, vomiting blood in her mouth, but the forbidden memory was held dead in her hand. Jinji, you three, well done. Looking at the Never members who had been taken, Utopia nodded with satisfaction. It's all adult guidance and good guidance. Jean and the three hurriedly said respectfully, so, then, you guys step aside, it's my turn to perform. Utopia chuckled and looked east. The three of them were suddenly a little puzzled. Come out. I have sensed you a long time ago, and arresting me is not what you have always dreamed of? Utopia ignored everyone's doubts and still said to the east, I know who it is, but can he do it alone? Nick Fury, Coulson and other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents immediately knew who Utopia was shouting at. They are still worried that young man, can he really win the Utopia? After all, the image of Utopia and invincibility has long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Tor. Nation. You traitor, today I will put you on the righteous ground. A stream of light flashed from a distance. A blue figure holding a sword appeared in front of everyone. He is somewhat similar to Utopia, with mysterious patterns on his body, a bit like the gluttony patterns and cloud thunder patterns of ancient China. But one is elegant and noble, and the other is mysterious and deep. Nazca. This guy is coming. In the alley not far away, the street heroes watching the battle showed joy. Jessica shook her fist happily. She and Nazca don't know each other, and Nazca has also come to play with her these days and is more familiar with her. He should be able to deal with Utopia. Claire put her hands on her chest and looked hopeful. I believe him, after all, he saved my life. Daredevil Matt smiled too. Hey, you all know this guy. Can he really win Utopia? Tony Stark looked at everyone's hopeful expressions, and suddenly felt a little sour. It should be fine. Narumi Shokichi also spoke. Nazca is the trump card of the museum, and he also holds the position of the leader of the Never Squad and the Executioner, and his strength is strong. Utopia, on the other hand, is a memory created by the museum only a few months ago, and its strength is similar to that of NASCAR. However, Nazca's combat experience is something he does not have. Moreover, the degree of fusion between NASCAR memory and Tianjin MO is as high as 97%. How to look at it, NASCAR has a high win rate. Listening to Narumi Shokichi's explanation, everyone's confidence has risen to a higher level again. This is stable. The picture returns to the battlefield. Nazca and Utopia volleyed against each other, their eyes met. Invisibly, everyone can feel the powerful breath exuding. Tens of thousands of pairs of eyes are eagerly watching, wanting to see who can win these two big boss-level people. Episode 69. Let's fight. Hurry up and fight. So grinding. You know a fart, this is a look between the strong. Wait until whose breath falls into the downwind, the other will do it. My God, there are so many monsters in New York. New York is going to end. When New York is finished, you will go back to your Africa. Hell's Kitchen. I don't know when, this place, which was once forbidden at night, was suddenly crowded with a crowd of people who smelled the wind. Tens of thousands of people holding mobile phones and camera equipment watched this extraordinary battle that they had never seen before. Finally, under the eyes of everyone, the figures of Nazca and Utopia finally began to move. Nazca struck first, holding a long sword, and slashed at the head. Utopia wields a scepter, and countless long whips of thunder gush out around him, trapping Nazca in the sea of thunder. Nazca spread his light wings in the thunder sea, dodged the thunder whip, and rushed out of the thunder sea in the blink of an eye. However, Utopia suddenly used gravity, his figure was affected, and he was finally hit by two lightning whips. The long whip slammed into his back, shooting out two dazzling sparks, like two fireworks. Nazca's figure fell rapidly, but it finally balanced and landed steadily on the ground. Nazca suffered. It seems that he is not a match for Utopia. Jessica's heart tightened. Don't worry, Nazca hasn't used his full strength yet. Narumi Shokichi said disapprovingly. Sure enough, his voice fell. Nazca on the field chuckled. It seems that without full strength, it will be impossible to take you down. His tone instantly became cold, and his figure changed slightly. The body looks more solid, but a little slimmer, as if it has strengthened something. NASCAR, there is an upgraded form. Narumi Zhuangji explained. Look, he is going to exert his strength. Everyone looked at it in unison, only to see Nazca soaring into the sky, several times faster than before. In just a short moment, it returned to the front of Utopia, and the long sword swept. Now I'm already 1,000% stronger than you. Nazca shouted triumphantly. Yes? Utopia dodged his attacks left and right, and did not see a decline at all. Look at this trick. Nazca's neck scarf suddenly wrapped around Utopia. Two lightning bolts appeared in front of Utopia, bouncing them off. But the next second, his face changed slightly. A ball of energy was thrown towards his face. Boom! The energy ball hit Utopia's face, and his body was suddenly enveloped in flames. Fuji! Nazca took advantage of the chase, and his hands sent out energy balls one after another, completely submerging Utopia in the sea of fire. After waiting for a long time, Utopia did not move. Nice. Many people cheered happily. Jessica and others want to celebrate the victory. But, when the smoke dissipated, everyone's face changed. Utopia is almost unscathed except that its body is blackened with dust. Damn it. Nazca, originally, I wanted to spare your life. Senhin's tone came from Utopia's mouth, and everyone who heard this couldn't help but shiver. That's a lot of nonsense. Goodbye. Nazca smiled disdainfully. The long sword was horizontal, the neck scarf also swept out, and the hand also took the opportunity to shoot out 2 energy balls. All of a sudden, he sealed all the positions of Utopia. In the face of such an attack, Utopia smiled viciously. Look, there's a tornado. Suddenly, the audience exclaimed. More than a dozen hurricanes swept towards the center of the battlefield, and a dark cloud also gushed out around Utopia's body, and thunder and flames flickered in it. The rainstorm is also on schedule. Thunder and fire intensify. Thunder-water superconductivity, water and fire evaporation, plus the spread of hurricanes. In an instant, the middle of this storm became purgatory. Nazca in the center sensed something was wrong, but it was too late. Fierce thunder and fire, endless torrential rain, and strong hurricanes enveloped him in an instant. I saw a crackling sound, and Nazca instantly let out a heart-rending scream, and finally fell weakly from the sky. Nazca is defeated. Jessica covered her mouth and immediately wanted to go to the rescue. She has missed saving Luke Cage, and she can't miss the rescue Tianjin MO anymore. But Frank and Matt held her by the corner. Utopia is obviously angry. At this time, whoever goes up to touch this musty head will die. Nazca can't be saved, and he can't implicate another Jessica. Oops, even NASCAR. Nick Fury and Coulson breathed heavily, but they didn't expect that Nazca, who said that he wanted to arrest Utopia, was actually hung up. Why, you are so strong. Your strength, something is wrong. Nazca fell to the ground, struggling to raise his head, looking at the Utopia that fell in front of him, his eyes full of disbelief. Mortals are always amazed by the power of the gods. Utopia shook his head, smiled, and said, Nazca, I thought you would be a great creature like me, but now it seems that you are just a poor pawn. At this point, our friendship is completely over. Your life will be taken by my own hands. Episode 70. Farewell, Nazca. Farewell, Tianjin. Utopia holds up the scepter, and the thunder flashes is about to end Nazca's life. Oops, Nazca estimates. Matt and the others fell silent, and Coulson was also a little moved. But everyone can only watch as Utopia executes Nazca in public. The eye of the storm is about to fall. At this time, a yellow lightning bolt shot rapidly from the air. Is that a bird? Is that an airplane? That's Locust Man. With the cheers of the people, Yen Tianxin, who turned into Kamen Rider 01, fell from the sky. At great speed, he kicked at Utopia's scepter, directly interrupted its attack, and then lifted Nazca's body with one hand and came to the side. Who are you? Utopia's face was gloomy, looked at Yen Tianxin, and asked, Who am I? You ask them. Yen Tianxin clasped his hands in front of his chest. He's Locust Man. He is a hero of New York. He is Kamen Rider 01, the defender of social order. He is the president of Tianjin Intelligence, our famous twin star in New York. He is the inventor of Shimakia, our genius scientist. Soon, Utopia had many answers. Oh. Yen Tianxin, I've heard this name. Utopia nodded, and then sneered, but, no matter who you are, in front of me, there is only a dead end. Oh. Is it? I used to get in the way of many people, and they all told me that, but now they are gone. Yen Tianxin carried his hands behind his back and stood proudly. The biggest difference between me and those people is, I never tell lies. A chill flashed in Utopia's eyes, and his figure burst out. Lightning and thunder are coming. Yen Tianxin stood up proudly, but as soon as he pressed the button on his belt, he was hit by these lightning thunderbolts. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the ruins and did not get up for a long time. Onlookers, Shield Agent, Street Heroes, isn't it, you forced the grid so high, and you lost it all at once? Suddenly, the golden body of Locust Man had signs of shattering in everyone's mind. Ahem, careless. Sneak attack, huh? After half a minute, Yen Tianxin finally jumped out of the ruins. His hand went behind him, and he didn't know where he took it. A brand new program sublimation key appeared in his hands. This is a combination of Assault Grip and Shining Locust Program Sublimation Key. Into the Shining Assault Locust Program Sublimation Key. Can transform him into a Shining Assault Locust form. Press the switch of the Program Sublimation Key. Hyperjump. Overrise. Take out the High Leaping Locust Program Sublimation Key and insert the new Shining Assault Locust Program Sublimation Key into your belt. Transform. Progrise. Warning, warning. Thesis notatist, this is not a test drill. Hybrid Rise. Shining Assault Hopper. Knock and see off surviving this shot, no hope of survival, a desperate blow. A huge locust jumped out of his belt, turning into shattered armor and instantly covering his body. Right now, Yen Tianxin's Kamen Rider 01 armor has undergone tremendous changes. Although it is still in the basic form, there are many hideous edges and corners on the body. A sci-fi lens appeared in his chest. The facial armor also looks even more killing. So handsome. Is this the upgraded form of the 01 armor? Sure enough, it's more handsome. With upgraded armor, you must be able to win Utopia, definitely? Mr. Yen, you will definitely win. Come on. The audience immediately cheered enthusiastically. Locust Man has a lot of popularity, and now seeing his upgraded form, people are naturally very excited. And Nick Fury and other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were also shocked. The technology embodied in this set of armor made them even more headaches, and they didn't know how to chase it. What kind of brain does Yen Tianxin have? And what level has Tianxin Intelligence's current technology reached? He suddenly had a deeper jealousy of Tianxin Intelligence than Utopia. Mr. Yen, come on. Jessica shouted excitedly. The last time she was injured in the Grove and was on the verge of death, it was Yen Tianxin who brought her to the Tianxin Intelligent Building for treatment, resuscitated her from death. The more than half a month of living in the Tianxin Intelligent Building was the most comfortable half a month for Jessica. Moreover, not a penny was collected. At the time of discharge, Jessica also touched Yen Tianxin and thanked him. At that time, Yen Tianxin's words, she will never forget. As street heroes, you protect the masses regardless of gains and losses, so hard and so dangerous. I owe it to you to keep this city from being so dark. After that, you take this card, and in all Tianxin smart stores, you can get a threefold discount on consumption. Jessica almost cried. She hid the card tightly and loved it as an heirloom. Although, Tianxin Smart's goods, she can't afford to buy them with 3 discounts. Episode 71. Capture. I was careless just now, no flash. Now, it's time for me to be serious. Yen Tianxin was wearing brand new armor, facing Utopia, and coughed lightly. He held out his hand into the sky. A Huang Chengcheng weapon fell from the sky and landed steadily in his hand. Next, are you ready to enlighten Fufa? Yen Tianxin held the authorization saboteur and pointed to Utopia. Ha ha ha, do you think you can beat me by upgrading a level? The person you saved just now also thought so. But you look at him now. Utopia laughed disdainfully, pointing to the Nazca-doped body lying on the ground. Don't talk nonsense, see the real episode under your subordinates. Yen Tianxin stopped talking to him, holding the authorization destroyer. His body turned into a stream of light, and he arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye. The authorization vandal lingered in a circle of yellow electronic light, looking very intimidating. Utopia did not harden, but descended downward, summoning lightning and storms to attack Yen Tianxin by the way. Yen Tianxin's speed was extremely fast, and he flashed left and right in the lightning storm, dodging all attacks. He chased after Utopia. The crushing speed makes Utopia somewhat overwhelming. All of a sudden, everyone only saw Yen Tianxin's attack that covered his face, and Utopia was downwind from beginning to end. Worthy of Yen Tianxin. Utopia has no power to fight back at all. Looks like you're going to be killed. I decided, I won't buy the house, first buy a set of Kamen Rider Abaddon. Kamen Rider is so handsome. Come on Mr. Yen. Come on Bugman, God bless America. Mr. Yen bless God. The fierce carnival of the onlookers resounded in the air. Nick Fury listened to their words, his eyes narrowed, and he became even more jealous of Tianxin Intelligence. He even hoped that Yen Tianxin would lose both here and Utopia. Then Yen Tianxin was seriously injured and died, and Utopia was taken by them. It's a pity, he can only think so. Yen Tianxin puffed up, his figure carried an afterimage, and an axe chopped Utopia into the sky. Then, he removes the program sublimation key from his belt and inserts it into the slot of the authorization breaker, axe mode. Progress key confirmed. Ready for Buster. Ready to destroy ready. Pull the trigger. Buster Bomber sounded with a sound effect. The authorization destroyer in Yen Tianxin's hand immediately gathered a large number of yellow electronic network lightning. He swooped straight down from the sky, raised the mandate breaker shrouded in yellow lightning and slashed towards Utopia. Utopia got up from the ground and immediately waved his scepter. Immediately a large cloud appeared densely in front of him, and thunder and skyfire flashed in the dark cloud. I wanted to block Yen Tianxin's attack with this. In the eager eyes of everyone, Yen Tian's heart was unstoppable. Like cutting a piece of tofu, the dark cloud created by Utopia was instantly split in half, and then the momentum was unabated and it was chopped into the body of the Utopia. Utopia instantly let out a scream. His body exploded directly, and pieces of Gaia memories flew out. Yen Tianxin immediately caught it. Never's Gaia memory is in his hands. By the time the smoke cleared, the Utopia had returned to its original form. An Asian man wearing a white suit and combing his back appeared in front of everyone. At this moment, he was embarrassed, struggling to get up in the ruins, but the Utopian memory in his hand smoked. Great, Utopia is defeated. Mr. Yen is amazing. There is only one superhero in the world, and that is Locust Man. When the crowd saw the fiasco of Utopia, they immediately cheered with joy. Utopia is full of evil, killing thousands of people in its first appearance. Every appearance after that is bound to be accompanied by killing and destruction. He has long since become the big devil in the hearts of New Yorkers. Today, he was finally defeated, and it was the genius Yan Tianxin who defeated him. Yan Tianxin is an American, and Utopia is Chinese. Rounding, that is, the Americans defeated the Chinese. This cannot help but make the American masses not cheer. Mr. Yen, in the alley in the distance. Jessica also covered her mouth excitedly. Utopia is the source of her nightmares. His godlike power often terrified her in memories. Now that he is defeated, his invincible golden body is shattered in Jessica's heart at once. Most of her inner demons dissipated at once. The rest of the street heroes breathed a sigh of relief. After all, Utopia is a big problem for the masses of New York, 10,000 times more terrifying than the underground emperor such as Jin He. Now that he is defeated, it is a great good thing for ordinary people and for them. Damn. That's impossible. How could I lose? Jyotishan looked at the utopian doped body with black smoke on his hand and muttered, "No way, I'm a god. How can you lose? All this is an illusion, everything is a lie." He suddenly started laughing, like crazy. Yan Tianxin stepped forward directly and struck him with a knife on the back of his neck, directly knocking him unconscious. Then his eyes fell on the three of Jean and the three not far away. "You." Jean he looked at Yan Tianxin's gaze, and was wary. But in the next second, Yan Tianxin's figure had already arrived in front of the three people. With a split of the axe, the three of them instantly returned to their human form, and Gaia's memory fell out. Yan Tianxin looked at the shield agents and the members of the Never Squad beside him. In the end, without saying anything, he collected all the Gaia memories and began to go home. "Wait, Mr. Yen." Nick Fury watched his movements and immediately wanted to call out to him. But Yan Tianxin jumped into the air without looking back, returned to the airship, and then swaggered in the direction of Tianxin intelligence. Suddenly, the scene seemed a little silent. Momja Fark. Nick Fury cursed again. "I worked hard and spent so much manpower and material resources, so I wanted to get all these Gaia memories." Unexpectedly, a Yan Tianxin was killed halfway and all the Gaia memories were swept away. Nick Fury could only look at Katushin, who had changed back into his original form. Perhaps, the layout can also have some use value. He immediately led the team, took Jiao Shun under control, and snatched the utopian memory from his hand. And Coulson also led someone to take the scarred members of the Never Squad to the ambulance. As for where the ambulance is going, only they know. Watch the superheroes and criminals are gone. The onlookers also rushed home. After all, Hell's Kitchen is not a good place. Maybe without the suppression of those superpowers, criminals will emerge one by one. So, all of a sudden, the originally huge battlefield became empty. "Let's go too." Jessica looked at several people. Tony's injuries are unharmed, and neither is Narumi Shokichi's injuries. Their group of street heroes, who played no role in this incident, seemed a bit waste. Jessica's mood was a little low. "Wait, can you help me meet that Yan Tianxin? I seem where I've seen him." At this time, Narumi Zhuangji sat up in shock in his dying illness, and his eyes eagerly looked at the direction where Yan Tianxin had gone. Episode 72. Kamen Rider 555. "Oh. Have you seen him? I wouldn't see it on the news." Jessica looked at Shokichi Narumi with a suspicious look in her eyes. After all, there seemed to be no connection between the embarrassed Songhai Zhuangji in front of him and the elegant and noble Yan Tianxin, except that they were both Asian. "I don't know. I'm not sure, but he gives me a familiar feeling." Narumi Shokichi touched his chin and thought. "He looks like this, but he has a bit of a unique tough guy temperament. If you want to meet him, I can help you solve it." Tony patted his chest. "I know him quite well. Only I dare to assert that I can ask him out." "Yes, you two are both rich people, there must be a lot of common topics." Jessica and others also reacted. Tony Stark is also a well-known genius scientist and rich man, similar to Yan Tianxin. Of course, Tony nodded, but was a little shocked. Now, will others only think of themselves when they mention Yan Tianxin? Tony was suddenly a little unconvinced. "Wait for it, when I finish upgrading the armor, I will definitely let you remember my secretly thoughts. Earn big, earn big." Yan Tianxin, who returned to the Tianxin Intelligent Building, suddenly showed a look of joy on his face. This battle in Hell's Kitchen brought him a lot of gains. More than 200,000 ordinary impact factors are insignificant. More than 4,000 special impact factors are a real huge gain. Among them, he would like to thank Jessica deeply. Worthy of being a treasure girl, one person contributed more than 1,000 impact factors to him. "Let me see." Yan Tianxin brought up his panel. Common impact factor, 401879. Special impact factor, 9200. 800 more to unlock the third layer of Kamen Rider 01, or unlock a new Kamen Rider book. Yan Tianxin looked at his balance and fell into deep thought. On the third floor of Kamen Rider 01, there are many high-power Kamen Rider armors. According to the data given by the system, as long as these armors are taken out, they can almost run amok on Earth. What a Hulk! Thor can only step aside. Gui could only stare dryly. However, according to the current timeline, the strong enemy has not yet appeared, and the impact factor that may be earned is not as much as expected, which is not cost-effective. And to unlock a new Kamen Rider book, there is a lot of uncertainty. Maybe unlock Kamen Rider Tron, Sherwang, etc., or unlock Zio. As for the second layer of Kamen Rider W, it was not on his radar. Because the second floor is the most valuable Earth library, he already has it. After thinking about it, Yen Tianxin finally made a decision. Now Kamen Rider 01's metal atomic cluster locusts are enough for the next year. Making the scene bigger is what he should do now. 5,000 special impact factors disappear into the system data. A figure full of science and technology appeared in front of him. Congratulations, successfully unlocked Kamen Rider 555 illustrated book. Unlock booklet rewards, King Orphe Enoch, Sleeping State, 1, Kamen Rider Tendi Transformation Set X1. Yen Tianxin immediately breathed a sigh of relief, and joy was written all over his face. Kamen Rider 555, whether it is a knight, or Orphe Enoch, or Enoch, the strength is not very strong. But the setting of Aofi Enoch's murderous transformation will definitely have a huge impact on the world. It's definitely a big boost for him to earn the impact factor. Let me think, how to settle the state situation. Yen Tianxin looked at the city below, and a proud smile slowly appeared on his face. On a road to the countryside in New York, an unremarkable motorcade drove by on the road, like a business team in a hurry to negotiate. In one of the business vans, Nick Fury looked at the Asian man in front of him with one eye expressionlessly. Utopia, where is the rest of the weather memory? Where are you headquartered in New York? You have been in New York for so long, it is impossible to do without a base. Listening to Nick Fury's question, Jiatu Shun did not pay attention to him at all. Leaning back comfortably in your seat and closing your eyes. Mr. Utopia, I think you should know. Although unlike Huagua, there is no death penalty in New York, but according to the number of people you kill, we can sentence you to more than 5,000 years in prison. If you want to get out of prison, it's impossible in this life. However, if you cooperate with us, we can make you much more comfortable in prison. Otherwise, without the memory of Utopia, you look so beautiful and fair, and you are placed in prison, but you are popular one by one. Nick Fury intimidated Jia Tushun, and the threat in his tone was easy to hear. When Jia Tushun heard his words, there was finally a movement. He opened his eyes and slowly approached Nick Fury. Nothing was said, only a sarcastic smile was given to him. Nick Fury was instantly annoyed. The other party actually didn't understand his current situation until now. Do you still think you're a high utopia? No, it's not. You are now in our hands, just an ordinary person who could not be more common. Even a skinny little guy. Trust me, it's a no-brainer for us to want you to say something. Now, we're giving you the opportunity not to touch those bloody and disgusting pickling methods. If you keep refusing to cooperate, then we can only say hug to you. Believe me, you will say it in 10. Nick Fury is like an attacking black tiger, staring at his prey with vicious eyes, and his language is fierce. Shoo! Jia Tushun suddenly raised a finger in front of his mouth. What does 980 mean? Nick Fury's eyes narrowed. They're coming. Jia Tu listened for a while, and then a rich smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Coming. Who's coming? Nick Fury's pupils shrank. The secret path was not good, and he quickly looked forward. Rumble. A huge explosion sounded ahead. A commercial vehicle flew over the convoy and fell into a small river under the overpass, billowing smoke. Chief, we have been ambushed. The vehicle at the head of the platoon has been destroyed, and the special merits inside are estimated to be. The sound of reports from his men was heard in the headset. Momja Fark. Become Kamen Rider. Nick Fury was immediately killed. Take out your briefcase from under your seat and transform. Right at this moment. Boom. The front of the vehicle he was in directly dented, as if something had fallen on the front of the car. The agents of the driver and co-pilot instantly became a puddle of meat and died. Then, a figure broke through the roof of the car and pulled Jayatushin outside the car. Momja Fark. Nick Fury swear words in his mouth, hurriedly turned into Kamen Rider Abaddon Commander, and then chased out. There, Carlson and the others also got out of the car and pointed away. I saw the guardrail of the overpass not far away. A silver-gray figure was standing there carrying Utopia. After taking a look at everyone, he carried Utopia, jumped a few times, and disappeared into the jungle in the blink of an eye. Episode 73. Orphe's Rescue. Katushin was abducted by a mysterious man, and Jean and the three were also taken away by unknown creatures. In the blink of an eye, the harvest of myself and others on this trip became a broken utopian memory. What kind of person is that? Damn it. Ma Jaffa. Nick Fury angrily pounded the fence of the road in front of him and directly bent the fence. It's Orphe Enoch, that's an Orphe Enoch. At this time, a voice sounded in their ears. Several people looked over, and it turned out that it was Never and others in the medical car who came down. Tianjin should walk to them, his face full of surprise. Utopia actually cooperated with Orphenok. I should have thought about why he was able to come up with so many experimental memories, and why his strength was stronger than he imagined. Tianjin should clench his fist and hit the front of the car. He actually went against the grain and cooperated with Orphenok. That's Orphenok? Nick Fury and Coulson were also surprised. Well, that's Orphenok. Tianjin should have a solemn face, not knowing what he was thinking. Damn, our Gaia memory was taken away by that damn royal bugman, otherwise, we can solve these Orphenos now. Sanasaki Yako was also a little annoyed. Nick Fury and Coulson looked at their expressions and immediately knew that there was really a blood feud between the museum and Orpheno. Nick Fury and Coulson looked at each other, glanced at the Never everyone behind them, and immediately understood each other's thoughts. Have already let Utopia run, then these few people, you can't let them run away anymore. If you want to put it, you have to show sincerity from the museum. Sorry, Tony, your injuries are getting worse. Stark Industrial Building, looking at Tony, who was grinning and being treated by the new medical type Shimegia, Narumi Shokichi's face was full of shame. Is it? I feel like my wound can't get better anyway. Tony undeniably traced his mouth, and then as if sensing something, he immediately shouted the medical type Shimakia. Then pull down your clothes to cover the wound on your chest. A few seconds later, a figure appeared in the room. Oh, my dear Pepper. You must have come here fearing for my safety, right? Tony raised an eyebrow at Pepper like a prodigal son. Pepper smiled helplessly and brought a stack of documents to him. This is a request for cooperation in exploring aerospace. They want to surpass Hammer Industries at the next arms show. It really makes me sad. Tony sat up, flipped through it casually twice, and then threw the file aside. This request is really unfortunate. Tony sighed. Not a coincidence? Pepper asked puzzled. They have made a lot of concessions. If we cooperate with them, we only need to come up with some technology, and we can get billions of dollars in return in the future. Unfortunately, they are going to develop new weapons. Tony took a sip of water, moistened his throat, and looked at the somewhat anxious Pepper. Pepper, I want to close the weapons production department of Stark Industries. Huh? Tony, are you kidding? Pepper looked incredulous. Her expression was strange. She looked at Dr. Ethan and Shokichi Narumi in the office, and then stared at Tony. Stark Industries' annual profits. The weapons department accounts for 57%. And you're going to turn it off? That's right. Close it. We sell something that pacifists should sell. Pepper looked at Tony, only to see that he was also looking at her with a serious face. The two looked at each other for a few minutes. Very well, I see. You are the boss, I listen to you. Pepper nodded helplessly. That's it, I'm the boss, you listen to me. Tony was smiling too. That means to refuse this request to explore the space? Refuse to drop. I see. Pepper walked out the door. 10 seconds later, the ground appeared in the doorway again. Really shut down the weapons department? Really? Looking at Pepper leaving on high heels, Tony spread his hands towards Shokichi Narumi and Eisenhiro 11. Look, what a wonderful lady. What an excellent secretary I have. Yen Tianxin's Izzy is definitely not comparable to her. You fart. A voice came from the doorway. Yen Tianxin's figure suddenly appeared at the door. He came to Tony in a bad mood and found a chair to sit in. It's really not a coincidence. As soon as I came, I heard you saying bad things about me. I didn't say anything bad about you. I was saying that your robot secretary is not as good. That's talking badly about me, all right? I rinse. Tony spouted at several people. Say, invite me over and do something. Tea was not prepared, and the meal was not prepared. I'm very busy, and Tianxin Intelligence has a lot of things to deal with. Yen Tianxin picked up the grapes placed in front of Tony and ate them in large gulps. It's not me looking for you, it's him. Tony sat up straight and got down to business. Before anything, please allow me to make an introduction. This is Dr. Ho Ethan. Nobel Prize winner, it was he who saved my life in the Middle East. Without him, you wouldn't be able to see me again. Dr. Ethan. I've read your paper. But, you saved a bastard. Yen Tianxin and Dr. Ethan shook hands. Tony shrugged his shoulders and continued to introduce Shokichi Narumi. Then this one is going to meet your protagonist. His name is Heizuangji, and he is a novel that is not right, adventurer. It was the former museum personnel, now defected. He took us and did a great job in the desert. We almost all died inside. Hello. Mr. Hai. Yen Tianxin and Narumi Shokichi shook hands, but he saw Narumi Shokichi looking at him with a kind face. Really like. Narumi Shokichi's eyes were gentle, as if he remembered something. Like what? Tony and Yen Tianxin were both stunned, spitting grapeskins. Mr. Yen, please allow me to ask rashly. Is there a bloody birthmark on the front of your chest? Narumi Zhuangji looked at Yen Tianxin with burning eyes. How do you know? Who are you? Yen Tianxin's face changed abruptly, and he looked at Minghai Zhuangji gloomy. No, really? Tony Stark raised an eyebrow. Think about it carefully. I am so familiar with Yan Tianxin, I have never seen him take off his shirt. Don't be suspicious. I didn't spy on you, and no one in this world can spy on you. Narumi Shokichi's face was a little complicated, and he said, excuse me, do you want to know who your real father is? As soon as these words came out, not only Tony Stark and Dr. Ethan instantly became interested, but also the eyes of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who listened to Haya. Come here, come here. There is gossip, there is gossip. In the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, an agent shouted excitedly, and several agents instantly surrounded and began to monitor the conversation. Who doesn't want to hear the news about the biological father of Yan Tianxin, president of the famous Tianxin Intelligence? Episode 74. Yan Tianxin's father, my biological father? Interesting, I'll listen. The uncertainty on Yan Tianxin's face eventually turned into a polite smile. He nodded and motioned for Narumi Shokichi to speak. You were adopted by Americans since you were a child. Why did you know that your surname is Yan? I think this Yan surname is derived from a Yupei. Narumi Zhuangji looked at Yan Tianxin confidently. Yan Tianxin's smile stiffened slightly. He was silent for a while and took an emerald green jade pei from his neck. On it, the dragon flying phoenix dance is engraved with a small seal of a swallow. Fantastic. The gossip on Tony's face grew stronger. S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are also itching. Just hate yourself for not installing a covert camera. This is what your father left you. Narumi Shokichi said, this jade pei was carved by your grandfather on the battlefield. At that time, his troops were preparing for the final decisive battle, and he felt that he might not survive, so he carved this jade pei, put it together with the suicide note, and sent it to your grandmother. This Yupei is for your father. And your father, before performing his mission, put it on you again. How do you know so much? Yan Tianxin looked at Minghai Zhuangji. You know my father? That's right. I know your father. Narumi Shokichi nodded. Your father used to be the chief of the museum. As soon as he spoke, it was a blast that killed 937 breaths. What? Deputy Director of the museum. Tony, Dr. Ethan, and S.H.I.E.L.D. agents all widened their eyes. Is Yan Tianxin's origin so big? Your father's name is Yan Hongyin. Is a legendary figure. His strength is unfathomable, his mind is very developed, and even the director of the museum is a little afraid of him. At that time, I joined the museum and happened to become his subordinate, and others are as honest as you. As smart as you are. I followed him, and in just 1 year, I saw him solve more than 50 Orphenos, kill more than a dozen venerables, and seal 7 undead creatures. The rest of the monsters, superpowered criminal prisoners, don't know how much they solved. Battle feats. However, he later received some information, disobeyed the museum's orders and came to the United States. I don't know what he's doing in America. When I came to the United States to meet him more than 20 years ago, I didn't see his wife, only you. His life at the time looked difficult, and it seemed that there were strong enemies in the same circle. He urged me to stay away from him. That night, he put Yupei in your Qiangli and gave it to a pair of hands in the dark. Then he drove me away, and he never came out of the other 10 shades of darkness. Narumi Shokichi said, with relief in his eyes, surprise, happiness, and finally fear. What's in the darkness? Yan Tianxin. Tony and the others narrowed their eyes. To make a powerful museum deputy director disappear, something in the dark is definitely not to be underestimated. I don't know what's inside the darkness, I just see a pair of eyes. Narumi Shokichi's eyes were full of fear, as if he recalled some terrifying existence. A pair of eyes? What kind of eyes? That eye. Scarlet, evil, vicious. All malice is hidden in those eyes, and only that one eye. It's bigger than a house. It just appeared in the sky, undisguised its malice. I was frightened and softened, and your father rushed directly in front of it. After that, your father is gone, these eyes are gone, even you. Narumi Shokichi forced his head. I see. Yan Tianxin nodded. When he and Tony looked at each other, they both saw the solemnity in each other's eyes. If what Narumi Shokichi said is correct, then I am afraid that there are even more terrifying things that exist in this world. The S.H.I.E.L.D. agents also stood on end when they heard it. I don't know when, Kuiaozan he became one of the eavesdroppers. Eyes as big as a house, malicious, Yan Tianxin's father. Coulson chewed on these key words, and cold sweat broke out behind his back. I'll have to ask the chief to see if he knows. Coulson immediately ran to Nick Fury's office and explained to him everything he had just heard. I haven't heard. Wait a minute. Nick Fury was about to shake his head, but some special bits and pieces flashed through his mind. He was stunned, as if there was some important memory that he had forgotten. He was silent for a while, but shook his head. No, I haven't heard of it. Nick Fury calmly said to Coulson, Agent, please stop caring about this insignificant gossip. Your task now is to communicate with Never and others, and then make profits from the museum. I see. Although Coulson was a little strange about Nick Fury's performance, he nodded and obeyed the other party's orders. After he left, Nick Fury covered his head, his eyes confused. How can I have some strange memories? He couldn't figure it out. The picture returns to Stark Industries. Xiang Minghai Zhuangji continued to inquire about Yan Hongyin, and Yan Tianxin's complexion began to become complicated. Hey, how's the mood? Your biological father seems to be a British student. Tony patted him on the shoulder. Hugging my father, there is only one from beginning to end, and that is old Denver. Yan Tianxin said his adoptive father's name categorically. But your real father loves you too. Narumi Shokichi explained. No need to explain, I have a score in my own heart. Yan Tianxin interrupted him. There was silence in the room for a while. Well, since you're done talking, I'll go. In fact, these conversations are meaningless to him. Yan Tianxin said so, but Tony and the others could tell from his expressions and movements that his heart was not as calm as his words. Wait, Mr. Yan. Narumi Shokichi stopped him. What's the matter? Yan Tianxin turned to look at him. Perhaps there is a place where you can find clues about your father. He perhaps left you something. Narumi Shokichi used two possibilities, indicating that he was not quite sure what he said. Where? Yan Tianxin asked calmly. In Georgia. Narumi Shokichi gave an address. Quick, report quickly. The eavesdropping agents immediately went to report Coulson and Nick Fury. The two immediately decided to send someone to the scene before Yan Tianxin. Soon, several speeding cars set off from the shield base and drove towards the location Shokichi Narumi said. Yan Tianxin nodded and was about to leave, but was grabbed by Tony. Dude, how about we go and see together? I love treasure hunting now, Tony said excitedly. Episode 75. Farm. Yan Tianxin looked at Tony with an excited face, although he was a little strange why he suddenly became interested in treasure hunting. But there is nothing wrong with taking him there. After all, one more person is one more impact factor. That place is your biological father's former base in New York, and although he has never returned there, it is indeed very likely that it will leave you with some clues. Narumi Shokichi nodded and said, I'll lead the way. Seeing this, Dr. Ethan immediately joined in. So the four-person treasure hunting team was assembled. Yan Tianxin summoned his own Tianxin intelligent airship and rushed to the direction of Georgia with a group. Atlanta, the capital of Georgia at this time. An off-the-beaten-path farm. A private jet landed here slowly. But looking at the aircraft's interiors and parking technology, it doesn't seem as simple as an ordinary private jet. Ahem. This is the base of Yan Tianxin's biological father? A squad of SHIELD agents, led by Hawkeye Clinton, disembarked from the plane. The first moment the agents heard the news, Nick Fury sent him to lead a special operations team to investigate. Just got off the plane. Clinton frowned. The farm in front of us has been abandoned for many years, and there is no sign of inhabitation. The fence was empty, and many fences were already covered with moss. The surrounding trees and grass are very thick, and dead leaves cover the ground of the farm settlement. 20 years of desolation, it's almost like this. Clinton nodded, immediately packed his equipment and weapons, and led the way to the 3-story cottage on the farm. Clinton, the information about this farm has been sent to you. At this time, Nick Fury's words reached his ears. Received. Touching the headset, Clinton stroked her wrist. He has a technological bracelet on his wrist. This is a portable computer launched by Tianxin Intelligent not long ago, with the function of 3D projection. Opening the bracelet, a document popped out and was projected in front of the agents. Hamklin Farm, built in 1987 and covering an area of 129 acres, was originally owned by Stan Hamklin and was bought by 10 Asian men 24 years ago. It seems that this Asian man is Yan Tianxin's biological father. Clinton looked at the information and nodded. What he didn't know was that this farm was searched by Yan Tianxin in the information database of the United States. It's hard to pick a time and race that matches. Moreover, this Asian is still an otaku, has a very bad relationship, and finally died in the farmhouse. Yan Tianxin had already sent the Shio Magia team to clean it up, and arranged a decent base. The base stores some things that he doesn't need himself, but are shocking to S.H.I.E.L.D. Remember, Agent, you only have an hour. According to my information, Yan Tianxin and Tony Stark's airship has about 76 minutes to arrive. You must search this base within 60 minutes and find what Yan Tianxin's father left behind. Of course, the baby wakes up and forgets it. And, after searching for it, you must restore everything to its original state. Nick Fury's voice entered Clinton's ears again. Understood. Clinton nodded and stepped faster. The door was unlocked, as if the wooden bolt was directly broken due to decay. Everyone walked into the house unimpeded, and the smell of decay directly penetrated into the nostrils. You two go over there, you two go over here. You, and you, follow me. Clinton gave the order. The 7-man squad split into 3 groups and began searching the house from 3 different directions. All 7 of them have real-time projections on their helmets, which can throw everything in their field of vision into the backstage of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury, Coulson, and others followed them to observe. The house in front of the meeting is no different from the house of ordinary people. They are ordinary home furnishings, covered with thick dust and cobwebs. There are indeed traces of 2 people's lives. But there is only one Asian man living alone in the local record. Nick Fury looked at the materials sent by the local archives bureau while looking at the environment in the house. According to the information, a man surnamed Wang from Huagua bought the farm for a large price and lived alone here. He hardly does any work and does not sell produce, but he is just rich. He has no wife and lives alone and rarely go out. And he was very resistant to social visits, so over time, no one in the local area cared about him, and he did not know that the farm was abandoned. These local idiots. The other party is about to write that he is an agent on his face, and they can't even see it. Nick Fury scolded secretly after reading the information. A big man who does not work, does not sell goods, but shoots so generously, and do not go out, but also resist local social visits. Isn't this all suspicious? If he had seen this information 20 years earlier, he would have directly begun to send people to monitor the other party. Yan Tianxin's father, disguised as a man surnamed Wang, bought a farm in the countryside of Atlanta. What does he want to do? Nick Fury took the opportunity to bring up various materials from Atlanta that year. Suddenly, a news headline instantly drew him in. Atlanta's sudden strange weather, tornadoes, thunderstorms, fires, and earthquakes hit one after another, killing 200 local residents and injuring more than 3,000. Sure enough, Nick Fury's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but admire his ingenuity. What natural disasters? Have you ever seen tornadoes, thunderstorms, earthquakes come together? This must be a big battle between superpowers. Nick Fury looked at the time again. Yes, everything is right. Nick Fury's one eye sparkled with wisdom. Yan Tianxin's father disappeared in the great battle of the literary field. Boss. Coulson's sudden outburst pulled Nick Fury out of his inference. What's wrong? He stopped smiling strangely and regained his composure. Following Coulson's finger, I saw an agent stopped in the basement of the farm. He looked intently at a water purifier box in front of him. The agents present are all experienced people, so naturally they can see the abnormality of this water purifier. It doesn't have anchor screws. Sure enough, after Clinton and the others all arrived, the 7 people used tools to work together to move the water purifier box away. A small earth gate appeared in front of everyone. Found it. It should be here. At the scene, Clinton was a little overjoyed. Looking at the time, only 20 minutes have passed. They still have 40 minutes to explore the treasure in front of them. Everyone took a lot of thought and opened this white door. I don't know what material is used. It's like new after so long. Everyone explored the world under the Earth's gate, confirmed that there was no danger, and then began to enter the righteousness one by one.